slavery started again in Europe when it abandoned the Christian faith and embraced the Enlightenment. It was the Enlightenment that led to the reintroduction of slavery.
Interpretation. It's been interpreted by loads and thousands and thousands of people over hundreds and hundreds of years. And the thing is that it varies from Christian to Christian.
It does
from
not.
Age to age.
Every Christian preaches the same truth. If your worldview is based on a lack of study and you're making value judgments about things that you don't understand, would you agree with me that it is possible that your value judgments are wrong?
I'm sure.
Why can't you accept that the church has a statement of faith known as the Nicene Creed? It's a real document. You can read it yourself. Thank you. There we go. Said that you should buy a slave, teach them a trade by which they could support themselves and then set them free. It became an act of piety in the Christian faith to set slaves free. It influenced St. Constantine, who made it a criminal act punishable by death to kidnap a child and raise them by a slave. It influenced the Emperor Justinian, who abolished all laws that prevented the freeing of slaves. By the time that you get to the 6th century, slavery was pretty much dying out in Europe. And that is of a direct consequence to the Christian faith. Why? Because of things like the letter of Philemon, where Paul sends a slave back to his master and says to the master in a letter, don't take him as a slave, take him as a brother, because you're a Christian and he's a Christian. When Christians, so it destroyed slavery. That's my point. You made a point that is fallacious. You said collectivism led to slavery. It was the collectivism of the church. No, and I'm saying to you that it was the collectivism of the church that destroyed slavery. It destroyed slavery. When the first Christians celebrated the agape meal, you had slaves and masters eating together as equals. This undermines the whole concept of Roman slavery. By the time you get to the 14th century, slavery was abolished in Europe. It was dead. The first time slavery was abolished in the UK was in 1066. So the reality is that we Christians, through our collectivism, destroy slavery.
Surely this is about definition of terms.
Now hold on one second. What other society
You've got a monarchy who swears fealty to God. When they take the divine right of kings. Each time that the church, the Parliament sits, they actually have prayers before the church. They do pray. They do actually.
It is semantics, I think.
It's not semantics. Slaves are real things, mate.
No,
they're real people.
Are real things, but to say that it's abolished and we've got a monarchy is ludicrous.
I never made the connection to monarchy. He made the connection to monarchy.
No, I'm saying it's a form of slavery. All these
I am countering the point made by this guy. No, hold on. People aren't listening. I am countering the point made by this guy.
It's okay.
I am countering the point by this gentleman, in which he said collectivism led to slavery.
No, collectivism leads to state slavery.
No, slavery existed before it, and it was the collectivism of the church that destroyed it.
Of course it did. The first organised religion was Hinduism or Brahmanism, whatever you want to call it, and that's a collectivised system. All religions are collectivised. Are you going to deal with my argument? I am, dude. I can't use the same terminology as you because I've got my own definition, my own view.
The collectivism of the church destroyed slavery.
I'm an individual. You can't collectivise me. I shall not stand under the banner of your Christian church.
Brother, do you want to deal with my argument? Yeah, you said collectivism led to slavery, and I have demonstrated historically how the collectivism of the church destroyed slavery.
What I meant, if I said that, what I meant was that collectivism is slavery. loads of Christians
Right,
in the
and
19th
what I was trying to
century
say when I
that
use the
had plenty of slaves.
slave example, that when, for example, the African people were enslaved, they were
There may have been a
collectivized
period
because
where
they were all
stopped it.
black.
Right.
No, not because they were
an
black.
example of what collectivism is.
Let me,
Not
and
because they were
I've
black.
given you an example that the church's collectivism destroyed slavery.
Sorry,
Now,
Dave.
hold on. This brother makes a point about the reintroduction of slavery in the 1700s.
The church-
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Slavery started again in Europe when it abandoned the Christian faith and embraced the Enlightenment.
Do you have
It was
shares
the
in-
No
Enlightenment
way.
that led
No
to the
way.
reintroduction of slavery.
No.
That is what happened.
No.
It
You're
was,
actually sort of saying
it was,
the 1650s.
it was the sovereignties
That
of
is probably
nation
one
states.
of the most religious periods in English history. You've got it was a time of high religion, and that's when slavery was introduced in North America for commercial reasons, and a lot of people justify that.
How do you define a high religiosity? Surely, high religiosity.
People going to
no,
war because of their
that
religion.
doesn't mean anything. Surely, high religiosity is the degree to which you observe the faith. Would you agree?
No,
You don't agree.
no. I
So,
think it's,
look, high religiosity
I
has
think
nothing
there were
to do
lots
with
of
following
people,
the faith.
lots of people that actually believe that they lived according to the Christian code. Now that might be a different code to your code, but I mean I believe that they felt that they were true blue Christians, completely living according to God's precept, and it was their interpretation in the same way that your interpretation is
It's
yours.
not my interpretation, it's the church's interpretation.
No, it is your
This is the problem.
interpretation.
This is the
It's
problem with
been molded
Enlightenment
round to
thinkers.
everyone.
Enlightenment thinkers consistently try to impose their rubrics of understanding the world upon Christians.
If I got
And
5
Christians,
Christians in
and
a room,
Christians,
they would all
and
disagree about everything.
Christians fall into the trap of thinking that they're right. The reality is, it is not my interpretation. It is the interpretation of the church. That is the interpretation. The collectivist interpretation is the correct
That
interpretation
happens to be
of the
your
church.
gloss on it. I'm sorry, but that does.
No, I'm sorry, this is how
And-
you
and
want
we
to-
could go out to
you
other
want to
churches
refashion.
and they would have. No, I
You
don't.
want to
I don't want to
refashion.
refashion anything.
We
I'm
have-
telling you,
I'm sorry.
that there's loads and loads
What
of
do
people
Christians
with
believe?
different views
What do
of
Christians
what the
believe?
Bible means.
Can you show me a Christian that disagrees with the
I don't
Nicene
have
Creed?
any. I don't have any here.
Find me one. Find me a Christian that disagrees with the Nicene Creed. Every Christian, to be a Christian, has to believe in the Nicene Creed. If you don't believe in the Nicene Creed, you're not a Christian. Thanks, Bob. You're not a Christian. You can't just reinvent faith to suit your polemic. You have to do real academic study and make a understanding of the Christian
that's
faith
your
based upon its
interpretation.
authorities.
That's your interpretation, surely.
No, that's the church's interpretation.
No, that is
No, it's the church's interpretation.
I'm sure.
Why can't you accept that the church has a statement of faith known as the Nicene Creed? It's a real document. You can read it yourself. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Exactly.
No, I don't know what the Nicene faith is.
Exactly. So why are you trying to argue about what it is to be a
Because
Christian
I would
when you
imagine-
don't even know
Because I
what
imagine
the statement of
there
faith
are
is?
Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox and Catholics that probably have a different perspective, a different interpretation, a different translation of that Nicene Creed or whatever it is. They'll have a different view of it, and that's the thing about Christianity has changed over 2,000 years.
It is not. What is the core message of the Christian faith? Do you know? Let's see how much he knows about my faith. Since he's such an expert on it.
No!
Since he's such an expert on it. What is the central
I'm just a
faith?
fat old fool, right? I'm not an expert.
I am not going to call you a fool. but let's just, and I hardly want to speak about being fat. So let me ask you this question: what is the central claim of the Christian faith?
I believe it's surrender to Jesus.
No.
Okay, then go on in.
Right. So my point.
Believe in me, and you shall go there.
No. The point that I'm making to you, bro, right, is that you're stood here making these grandiose statements about what it is to be a
I'm
Christian.
giving you a different view.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
not
you're making
grandiose.
you're talking about my faith,
makes
and you're trying to
statement
interpret
grandiose and yours
it.
not grandiose?
Because mine's rooted in actual facts. an understanding of what it is to be a Christian.
2,000-year-old Bible that is open to
again, you have
interpretation.
misrepresented the Christian faith once again. You've
Another
misrepresented
grandiose statement.
exactly.
Got him.
Perhaps, brother, the best way to proceed in this conversation is not to speak beyond your limit of knowledge and to acknowledge that you do not know what you're talking about. Well, if you accept that you do not know what you're talking about, stop trying to tell me as a Christian how I should understand my faith.
Well, I think I can.
Oh, here you can.
Yes,
but
I
you
can.
don't even know
Yes,
what
I
my
can.
faith teaches. You don't know what its source documents are.
I don't know chapter and verse in your way, right?
You don't know chapter and verse at all.
I do know a little bit.
Right, so what's the central claim of the Christian faith?
I don't know.
Okay. The central claim of the Christian faith is that Christ is the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. He is the promised Messiah, that he was crucified on a cross, and on the third day he rose again from the dead.
Hallelujah.
That he ascended into heaven, and that he is coming back in judgment to the world.
Amen.
And he has brought about the kingdom of God on earth, which advances from the time of Christ to the present. That's the central claim of the Christian faith.
Well, I knew that.
And that has been the same claim. Well, if you knew that, why didn't you answer the question?
Well, because look, the thing is that when I was younger, I used to get ferreted off to Sunday school, and we were told all of that, and it's been a very long time, and I've forgotten it.
So you didn't know it?
Well, no, I do know. I mean, the thing is I did know the stuff about the Messiah and that he's going to come, that he's supposed to come here to save humanity, and that he will be coming back. I didn't know it in the way that you're expressing, but the basic core idea.
Right.
There.
So let me just cut to something else. Yeah. We have.
But that doesn't stop me. Forgive me, but that doesn't
You
stop
have
me
made-
from,
one
that
second.
doesn't stop me from having another. That doesn't stop me from having a view on Christianity, even though I'm not highly versed in the Bible and Christian belief. Because if you read any history, you'll actually see that there are things that have been done over the centuries in the name of
Right.
your
You're
church.
jumping around topic. Your original claim that I'm countering is that you have said that the Christian faith has changed over 2,000 years. And I said to you, no, it hasn't. And then we got onto a topic about what is the central claim of the Christian faith. Now, the central claim of the Christian faith, which I have just illustrated to you, is the one that you find being preached in the book of Acts by Peter. It is the one preached by Paul. It is the one that is portrayed in the Gospels. And it is the same one that I am preaching to you today, 2,000 years later. It has not changed. So the Christian faith has not
open to
changed.
interpretation. It's been interpreted by loads and thousands and thousands of people over hundreds and hundreds of years. And the thing is that it varies from Christian to Christian.
It does
from
not.
age to age.
Every
Yes, it
Christian
has.
preaches
Well,
the same
yes,
truth.
Maybe. Do they actually
Yes,
believe?
every Christian preaches the same truth. You will not find a Christian that
belief
teaches
if you
anything
actually
different
believe
from
in
what
Jesus, then
you
go
will
straight
not.
up
You
to
will
heaven.
not find.
Is there not different interpretations
You will
of
not.
that?
You will not find
That
any
Is
Christian.
it not the Catholics that say that you have to go through the Mother Church to get up to heaven? That there's intercession? Is there not sort of
Did
different
I mention any of those secondary doctrines that you've jumped on? Did I mention any of them?
My point is that there are
I didn't, did I?
No, but there are different interpretations
No, so-
of the way that it's read and the way that it's
No.
acted out.
You're
And in
confusing
fact,
something. You're confusing your categories.
Christians and
You're
Protestants
confusing
and
your
Catholics
categories.
have gone to war over
Brother, you're
their own
confusing
interpreted-
categories. You're confusing categories. You're confusing categories. The Christian faith
I'm
is the
confusing
yes, you're confusing categories.
Yeah, go on.
The Christian faith is the central message that I have just described. Christians down through the ages have applied the application of that central message to their own life in different ways given their sociological political contexts. Some of those ways have been crystallized in formal churches such as the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the Lutheran Church, the Calvinist
So there are
Church.
different interpretations.
It is
And there are
different applications,
different
yes.
ways of living it.
Different understandings of church politics, but I never mentioned church politics about.
Well, I did.
No, but I didn't.
Yeah, but I did.
But you don't know what the central message of the Christian faith is because when you were asked, you couldn't even articulate it.
So what?
So because you're making an argument that the Christian faith has changed, and you're not even addressing the central message.
Well, of course it's changed over time.
So give me an example of how that central message has changed.
No. Sorry, just a second. I'm saying how Christianity has changed over the centuries.
No one denies that the church has changed. We're talking about the faith.
Well, I would actually say that the way that the church faith has been enacted is entirely different from period to period.
Okay, so now it turns out we're now talking about the same thing. Because no one is denying that the church changes. The church has to change. If it converts people in Saudi Arabia where converting to Christianity is illegal, it has to take on a different form and shape with different emphases than if it was a place like in Italy where it is the mainstream culture to some degree.
I would actually say that manifests.
So it has to change.
I would actually say that manifests itself as in many instances a different religion. For instance, if you actually had, if you were to go back 200 years, say go back to the 1750s, and you went to an Anglican high church, their interpretation of the central tenets of the church that you have would be entirely.
Are we talking about the Anglican Church?
Yeah, Anglican.
Do you know about the is it the 39 article?
I'm sort of roughly, vaguely familiar with it.
Right. Okay. So let's just be clear about something. There is a difference between the substance.
I think the Queen has to swear by them still.
I'm going to finish my point without you interrupting.
Okay.
There is a difference between the substance of something and the form of something. So the form that the faith has taken over different ages has changed because society changes. Christians in the 1st to the 3rd century had to fight against slavery. Christians today also have to fight against slavery, but we fight against slavery that is illegal, whereas in the past we fought against slavery that was legal. So the nature of the fight changes.
Christians have in the past justified slavery. Now, and I'm not slagging off Christianity now. There's a lot of good people like yourself, but I'm saying that in the past, the tenets that you hold dear to you, they have been interpreted over the centuries to justify slavery, to justify war, to justify violence, to justify.
Let's just deal with that. Let's just deal with that. There's always this tension in terms of living out one's Christian faith between living according to the apostolic and prophetic teaching and living by what is normative to your culture. There is always that tension has always been there. And those examples where Christians have abandoned what the Christian faith teaches to go along with what is culturally acceptable.
No, they've held them central to their heart. They've taken the same words
because if you could listen, because the culture, like we take the Christians who went along with the Nazis. What they did.
There you go.
You shut up for a second and let me finish.
I'm so sorry.
Gosh, man, just be quiet, just for a minute, right? So the problem. The problem.
Don't hit me.
Can I finish a point? I know it undermines you. Thank you. So, in terms of things like cultural Christians of Nazi Germany, the fact of the matter is that Christians are always at risk, and this is a message to my brothers and sisters. We are always at risk of confusing our culture for the faith and allowing the culture to determine for us what we should do and then putting the label Christian over the top. That is a danger. And when the church, shut up for a second, when the church has been at its worst, it is when it has done that and mistaken culture for faith. Those Christians that hold closest to their faith are the ones that love the best, love the most, love the purest. And love does not enslave. Love does not go along with Nazism. Love does not go along with swearing allegiance to the flag or to the Constitution or to the Queen. Love is a devotion that you give to God and to your brothers and sisters in the community. A true Christian politic is a politic that seeks to ensure that the church is stronger from age to age against all of its rivals.
That's an unrealistic idealisation.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
No,
Yeah, you can talk. You can talk.
Thank you very much. On the German army belt, in the Nazi era, it had written, as you probably know, it had "My God" written on it. And it's supposed to be your God, right? Your God, and my God. The thing is that I would argue, look, you're a good man, and I'm sure that you actually read the Bible and try to live it to the purest way possible. But what you've just described there is a fine, high ideal, but I'd actually suggest that it's misinterpreted pretty universally across times and across nations across the world. I'm not slagging off Christianity, but what I'm actually saying is that it can be interpreted in so many ways. And another thing I'd actually say to you, right, is that if you actually read the Bible, it contradicts itself very often. You know, like looking at the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Okay, allow me to address. They got two totally separate points there. Firstly, the narrative that I'm describing is something that used to be normative to the church, and because of the Enlightenment, the church has lost that understanding of its own politic and needs to rediscover it. It is something that it was true all the way through the Church Fathers, all the way through the Dark Ages, all the way through the medieval period, all the way through the Renaissance. Then the Reformation, it starts to falter, and finally it dies at the Enlightenment. We need to rediscover what it is to seek to make the church triumphant in every age, and every generation of Christians must struggle, must crusade, must give ourselves, our ardour, our oblation to God to ensure that the church is successful in every generation. Now, this is something that is not unrealistic. It only takes commitment. It takes commitment from each Christian to do that. That is not unrealistic. That is what you're supposed to do as a Christian. Now, in terms of the idea that the narrative of the New Testament contradicts the narrative of the Old Testament is again rubbish, because the Old Testament points towards Jesus. The whole point of all the prophecies of the Old Testament is that it is pointing to the Messiah. Christ is the Messiah, and the New Testament points back to the Old Testament. The Synoptic Gospels go to great length to demonstrate that Christ is the Messiah. So the idea that these two things contradict one another is just rubbish.
Is there not one bit in the Old Testament where somebody says, dash the little children? Is there not? I know I can't remember where it is, but it dash the little children, yea, unto Babylon, or something like that. It's a bit in there.
I think it's in a psalm
where it actually celebrates. It says, don't just go into that valley and kill everybody, but I want you to kill all the children as well. And
it's
make
a
sure.
psalm.
Right. Now, I think Jesus said better that you sort of throw yourself in.
Suffer the little children to come unto me.
Yes.
Because before my Father in heaven they have angels. No, not at all.
Why not? Sorry.
Not at all.
Why not?
Well, I mean, if I am remembering the passage correctly that you're citing about dashing children against rocks, it's a psalm, and a psalm is a poem. A poem is not literal.
So it's just in there just for the fun of it, just for...
No, of course it's not in there for the fun
giggles,
of it.
Is it?
No, of course it's not. Well, this kind of childish characterisation belittles your own argument.
I'm sorry, why is it in there?
Yeah, it's a poem, it's a metaphor, it's conveying in graphic imagery profound emotions. Now, without reading that particular passage in context, I don't want to say anything more. But if it is the passage that I'm thinking of, and if it is the Psalms as I believe it is, obviously it's a poem, and a poem is not meant to be taken literally, then metaphorical.
I would imagine that it's meant as a guide for believers, a guide for their life.
No, this is simplistic enlightenment thinking. Once again, all your arguments are based on simplistic generalizations They are based on simplistic characterizations.
That's because the thing is, the last time I read a Bible was 50 years ago.
Perhaps you should pick one up again before you try to speak about it.
No, because I'm in Speaker's Corner. I just thought I'd wind you up.
You can throw out any argument you like, but unless your arguments are rooted in actual study, you're not going to carry any favour with me.
I don't want to carry favour with you.
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting to you is if your worldview is based on a lack of study and you're making value judgments about things that you don't understand, would you agree with me that it is possible that your value judgments are wrong? I'll ask the question again.
Yeah, I know. So this is a very profound question.
If you're making,
I know the question. I'm just thinking it over. Right? Just give me a minute. It's a very profound question. The thing is that because of my enlightenment values, and I'll give you that. I mean, I do have sort of some enlightenment values. The thing is that I live constantly in doubt, and that's
a terrible thing.
No, it's a wonderful thing.
It's a terrible thing.
It's a wonderful thing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength.
No, it's the existential failure of the Enlightenment.
Constantly, where you constantly are questioning whether you are right. You are constantly questioning what the other person is saying and questioning what you're saying. You're always open to the other person's point of view.
Never reach a destination.
Because you might have something. There may be something here that you say.
You're not answering my question.
Well, I am trying to answer your question.
Let me ask you the question again.
What I'm actually saying.
Let me refocus. Let's refocus. The question I'm asking you is if your worldview is not based upon a genuine understanding of the topics that you're making moral value judgments upon, is it possible that your moral value judgments are wrong?
I'm essentially in the bounds of Christ to consider you may be wrong. That's strongly, yes. Or maybe I might. Are you
right? So what I'm suggesting to you is before you dismiss the Bible and before you dismiss the Christian faith, which you have stated categorically on record that it has been decades since you last really looked at it, perhaps you need to start picking up the scriptures, reading them for yourselves in light of church teaching and deciding if actually there's got something to say to you. Would you do that? Or are you closed-minded?
Give me something to read, and I promise you I will read. I don't want to read like 50, 200 pages. Give me something to read.
I'll give you, read for me the Gospel of Luke.
Gospel of Luke.
It's not 250 pages.
How many?
It's like 20 pages.
Yeah.
Read the Gospel of Luke in light of church teaching and come and talk to me about it. All right. You look after yourself. You have a great day. So what we were talking about was a number of different issues that all got sort of mashed together, and that is actually something that happens a lot amongst people who have had their inner man, their mind, their worldview formed by the Enlightenment. Because unfortunately, in our society, we are bombarded by a series of characterizations, platitudes, and generalizations about all religions, which prevent people from really understanding what the Christian faith teaches or practices. And in terms of our understanding of faith and religion, what we have in our society is this kind of inoculation to the Christian faith. People think they know what the Christian faith is, they know what Christian teaching is, when really they know nothing of the sort. And what I would encourage all of you to do, particularly those of you who call yourselves Christians but don't go to church, call yourselves Christians but don't read the Bible, call yourselves Christians but don't practice the faith, I would encourage all of you to pick up the Bible for yourself, to download the Bible app, to read it in light of the scholarly commentaries of the church fathers, of leading church figures, and come to an understanding of the faith based upon real knowledge, not based upon platitude, generalization and characterization, and make a value judgment to yourself about whether that faith has something true to communicate to you, whether it resonates with your conscience, whether it resonates with your sense of right and wrong, whether it resonates with what you understand to be true and false. Because we're told in our society, for example, that the highest form of knowledge is scientific knowledge, and I would suggest to you that that's wrong. The highest form of knowledge is knowing how best to love. And if that resonates as something true with you, then you need to investigate the Christian faith. Because the Christian faith is the faith that teaches this fundamentally. It is false in our society to say that all religions teach this. That is a lie, and it is a lie by a political class that do not want you to rediscover your Christian heritage, do not want you to rediscover your Christian culture, do not want you to have a Christian faith. So they say that all religions teach the same, and that is clearly false from anyone who's actually taken the time to pick up a book and study it. So I invite you to pick up the Bible, study it in light of church teaching, and decide for yourself. Don't let other people decide. Decide for yourself whether you want to live by this faith. Not the weak civic religion of the Church of England that you see when you switch on your TV, because that's the BBC's version of Christianity. I'm talking about the historical Christianity of the apostles and prophets, that muscular faith that conquered the Roman Empire, that abolished slavery, that defeated Islamic jihad 3 times. That is the faith that I'm inviting you to. The faith that fashioned not just this continent and bejeweled it with wonderful works of art and architecture and literature and beauty, but also Armenia and Georgia and Russia and Ethiopia. This global faith that unites man in a common brotherhood, a common family, a common identity, with a common history, the history of the church, and a common future, that pilgrimage towards heaven.